How do you get from where you are today in business or in any particular situation in life to where you want to be tomorrow? Names have power, and naming your identities makes that transition from point A to point B much, much easier. Hello, I'm Fernando Sosa, and you're watching Mindset of Steel live show. In this show, we encourage you to crush your limiting beliefs, punch fear in the face, and take massive action in your business and your personal life by focusing on the 80% psychology and 20% strategies. If this is your first time here, or if you're watching on the replay, welcome. I'm excited to be here. This is episode number 8. And we have a special show today. We have a special guest coming up soon. Today's episode is all about identities and how to crush your limiting beliefs by naming your identities. Now, I'm going to go through a couple of things here before I introduce my guest. Now, regarding naming the identities, I started doing a morning routine a few months ago. And my morning routine, I shared it in the past. I've done a couple of things like yoga, exercises, stretches, running, but I never really called it a thing. I never really named it anything. But somebody in a private Facebook group asked me if I'm doing my morning, my hour of power. And when that person told me the hour of power, I didn't really know what she was talking about. And it turns out that it's kind of a thing called an hour of power, the morning routine that I was kind of doing. It's something in reference to a Tony Robbins event that we attended. But after she told me about the hour of power, the significance to my morning routine changed. When I named it something, my hour of power, I started calling it my hour of power. Everything changed. I was still doing the same exact thing, but the fact that I called it something, that I named it, made a big, big difference in how I did my morning routine now, because now I had a name. Another example is that I ran. I started running a few months ago as well, and I shared that as well. But I never really considered myself a runner, and I ran a couple of 5Ks. I did a 5K this weekend, but I still never consider myself a runner. And then all of a sudden I say, no, wait a minute. I'm doing all the activities. This is not a one-off thing. I'm a runner. The moment I started calling myself a runner, everything changed in terms of running, because now I consider myself a runner, and I'm doing the same exact things. I'm not changing, but I'm calling it something. I named my identity as a runner. So I'm a runner. And then, so what I'm sharing is that when you name the behaviors, the activities, the patterns that you do, it takes another level of significance. And this is something that we should do in everything that we're doing, because you set up like what's called an anchor, that you bring up emotions and feelings that you have when you're doing these things. And by naming these identities, for me, it has helped me do these same activities that I'm doing, but I'm doing it even better because now I have a name. And just because I have a name, I have other people that are doing similar things, and they're calling it the same thing. So now I find other people that are doing hour of power, other people that are runners. So I can, meet with them, Facebook groups, or do runs together, et cetera, because now we're calling it something. When you do something and it's just vaguely done without calling it anything, it's less powerful. So what has worked for me is to name the activity or behavior. One thing that I wanted to share, I drew this diagram because I wanted to explain something about identities. I have people asking, I've heard a lot of people ask questions about how do you get from where you are today to where you want to be tomorrow? And the way that I envision it is by looking at this diagram. If you were in point A and that's your identity, you are here, but you want to be in point B and that's your goal. Now, what happens is that, what is an identity? An identity is a set of beliefs and patterns, characteristics that define who you are. And you do certain things or you stop doing certain things because you have a set identity. So if you're in this position right here, and that's who you are today, and that's, you can say this is your business, for example. You are in business today, and you want to have take it to the next level, for example, and be in the place B. But this applies to anything, not just business. This could be your health, a relationship, weight, whatever. So I'm just saying the example as business. If your business is in A, what are the set of activities? What is your pattern? What has kept you? What has kept you where you are today? What identifies you as a business owner, or as, you know, the state that you're in today? What happens is that a lot of things that I put here like little stars represent the activities, the tasks, the routines, the behaviors, the beliefs that you have. Some of these beliefs are limiting beliefs that keep you in point A. So the problem is that we're trying to go from point A to point B with the same beliefs that we have right now. So our identity is, there's a conflict here. There's a conflict. You can't become something else and take it to the next step, to the next level with the same patterns or behaviors. Because the new identity has its own set of patterns and behaviors. So you have to be open-minded, flexible to introduce new ideas, new concepts into whatever it is that you're doing in order to get to the next step, which is here in case B. Some things do carry over, okay? Some things do carry over from where you are right now, but there's definitely new things that you have to try and do in order to get to the next level. And that is something that I see a lot of people struggle with, because they're not very flexible. They say, my identity, or these are things that I don't do because that's just who I am. And they lock themselves into this bucket in A, but they're struggling to get to B. And they're trying to find a straight line from A to B. They're trying to find a silver bullet. They're trying to find an easy fix, a quick fix to get from A to B. And in reality, life is ups and downs. So there is no straight line. That's number one. And second of all, like I said before, you have to introduce new ideas, be open and flexible to change, because nothing changes if you don't change. So that is a concept that it has helped me open myself to new ideas and opportunities in order for me to try to reach a certain goal. It's worked for me in business and in other areas in my life, like running, etc. So this is something that I find very useful and interesting. So let me know if this makes sense. You put your comment below and let me know. Does this make sense? You can type yes. If you're watching on a replay, go ahead and type yes as well. All right. So what I'd like to do now is, well, before I step to the next step, if you imagine yourself not having a name, imagine yourself not having, like, you have a name, right? How do you feel when you see your name, when you hear your name? It feels something, right? Something. You feel something. That something is equivalent to what I'm saying, that you need to name whatever activities you're doing, because when you name it, name has power. There's a quote by Rick Riordan. Names have power. So name your identities and you will see a big difference in what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. So what I like to do here is introduce you to our special guest, Sanya. Let me just show this quick video. So
making the decision to seek counseling can be very daunting.
That's why it's important to seek a specialist, because we're going to help you find your voice and also take control of your destiny.
We're experts in relationship therapy, infidelity and divorce, anxiety, depression,
self-esteem,
stress management,
professional coaching,
and personality disorders. We are only successful when our clients don't need us anymore.
We are counseling with a difference.
Sanya, welcome, Sanya.
Hi, Fernando. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So, Sanya, we wanted to get your expert opinion. You heard what I said or what I talked about, but can you tell me a little bit about yourself? We saw a little quick 30-second video there, but tell me, why should we be listening to you?
Well, I do have all of these degrees and certificates and whatnot, which get me in here to speak about these things and whatnot. And of course, my clinical experience. I have 2 master's degrees, whatever. But many people have that. But I think that the reason you should listen to me is because I have been very human, where I have had a lot of struggles myself, and I have worked to get myself out of that as well. So it's not just about the study. It's not just about the clinical experience. So the kind of clients I see are the clients whom everybody else has given up on. So I'll see the clients who have really understood that no one else can help me, no one else can help my relationship, and they're ready for divorce, they're ready for breakup. That's when I come in and I'm able to save the relationships. So I do all of the nice, sweet stuff, like prenuptial counseling and other stuff, but I'm basically trained to be that person where right before you give up, come and give it a try, because most likely I'll get you there. So you and I really align in that way, Fernando, because my work is about pushing you beyond the limit for when you think that you can't take more, you can't do more. How do you get past that?
Right. And so how do you find that people experience that having a limit? Do people, in your experience, even realize that they have a limit, or they set a limit to themselves?
Well, we all do have our limitations that we subscribe to, but the idea is that to be extremely clear on what we want in our lives, to not only know what you want and to be clear on that, but to make it even more 3D by understanding why do you want what you want. And once you become very, very clear on that, then that is what informs everything. So this is not about you and I saying that, okay, this is right and this is wrong, because we're not here to cast judgment. In fact, we're doing our very best to get away from judgment. But I'm here, you're here, Fernando, to say that if you do this, you're going to get closer to your goal. And if you do that, you're going to get further away from your goal. So it's all based on what it is. So yes, we all come with our sets of, identities that we start subscribing to and whatnot. And we don't have to change everything. We just have to change whatever we want to change, whatever we know that we need to change in order to reach where we want to go.
Right. And that's interesting that you say that. So how when somebody is, like, they say they're fixed in a certain idea, I've seen it for myself too. Like, I've experienced that. I think I thought I knew what I wanted, but what I wanted was based on what I believed was the right thing to do. So it's kind of a paradox there. How do you explain that, or how do you get out of your own head? And I guess one way would be to see a professional, or see other people that can give you another perspective from outside, right? Yes,
that would be a way. But you know what? Not everybody needs to see a professional. Really, if you are very, very clear on what you want, and you are stuck, like you say, okay, you know what, you want this. Generally speaking, if you don't already have it, there is something there. There are some barriers there that are preventing you from getting there. And this is, as Rumi says, the task is not to seek for love, but it's merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. And so when we speak of love, basically whatever it is that we want to do, all we need to do is to find those barriers. So we don't necessarily need to go into psychotherapy if we want to run that marathon, as you were speaking of, or we want to, we have seen someone that we're inspired by, and we want to be doing what they're doing. One thing I'll tell you is that we talk about projections as therapists a lot, and we, generally speaking, when you speak of the word projections, people always think of it in terms of negative projections, in which the concept is that whatever ill you see in another person, most likely that is something that you need to fix in yourself. But the beautiful part that is really helpful for our discussion right now is that we also have positive projections. So if you really think somebody's impressive, and you want to get clear on why you think that person is impressive, and you'll realize that there'll be a few traits and characteristics that you'll pick up on, and those are the characteristics that also live inside you. Know that they live inside you, and then systematically discover the barriers, and one by one remove that. And that would be the physical or the housekeeping issue, to remove the barriers. But where are you going to find the fuel? Where are you going to find the energy in order to charge that, to keep it going? You're going to get that from your motivation, from that desire to want that thing. So it's just simply finding the barriers, and just one by one, keeping your eye on the money, that this is my motivation. I want it for myself. And then just keep going. Understanding that when you get to barrier 1, there might be barrier 2, and so what? It's being fueled by something you want.
Right. Interesting. And so what do you say to people that when they identify their barriers, it happens that some barriers are actually could be people that are in your surroundings, right? And we might, like, something that I've learned, that just by learning about, reading books and self-development and courses, I have some knowledge, but I'm just one person. And when I go, do business with somebody, or I go to a group, everybody is its own world, right? They have their own thoughts, and not everybody has the same mindset. So it's difficult. It's just more challenging. If we were by ourselves in the whole world, it was just you, then I think it will be easier, but then you would be by yourself. So that's not the case. So how do you, applying the theory in practice, I find that it's extra challenging when other people are around you that are these barriers, and we're trying to, move forward.
Yeah. And so when we talk about barriers, they could be people, they could be, like you said, our misbelief about our ability. It could be our resources. It could be, I don't have the money to pay for this course or this and that. It could be anything. And the same thing applies for each one of them, that when you discover your barriers, you don't quit. Believe in your dream. Dreams are the most important place where you get the information on what feeds the joy, what feeds your soul. Joy is a truth teller, which is why we never want to give up on our dreams. And if your question is particularly about people, then I'm just going to answer that, which is that you want to ask yourself some very, very honest questions. Why am I in this relationship? What is it doing for me? Am I in it out of any of the 4 manipulators, out of guilt, out of a responsibility, out of playing a role, or out of a transaction, which can be a little bit tricky, because a transaction is simple, that giving something to get something. But the trickier part of transaction is that if I do this for you, you're going to like me. So if you're doing it for any of those, you're just basically being manipulated, but also manipulating, because it's not coming from a place that's going to feed your soul. And when we engage in relationships or any task out of these 4 manipulators, the end result is not a good outcome for ourselves, because the path and the destination are both energy sucks. They bring us down. Whereas when you are doing something out of your joy and you're engaging with somebody, even if you have somebody in your life that you don't typically care for, and you're doing something for them, but you're doing them out of your joy, that thing is going to raise you up and bring you closer to your original nature, your soul, your fulfillment.
Wow, that's very powerful. And like you said, that applies to anything really. People barrier, thing barriers, It's those four. You said four. Was it four things?
There are four manipulators.
Four manipulators.
And what I will tell you is, that the distance between when you discover your barriers and as you're going and you are discovering them, the distance between that upset of, oh my God, this is the barrier, what am I going to do? And you actually getting there and achieving it, that's the distance that is your spiritual journey, your psychological journey, your emotional journey. So so that's a beautiful thing. Barriers are our teachers. That is where our work is done. That is where our evolution is. That is where our growth is, to almost, how your whole segment right now, Fernando, is about identity. So I'm really offering this to reframe, would be another word, or another word would be to create a new identity with barriers and seeing them as opportunities.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Sanya. This was very, very insightful. Now, where can people learn more about you? I have the website here. Is this a counseling?
Yes, that's a great website. They can just Google my name, Sanya Bari, and they'll find me everywhere. I have a YouTube channel with my name, Sanya Bari, as well as an Instagram, everything, you name it, just with my name. And I try to make sure that it's easy to find me.
Awesome. I definitely seen the videos. Guys, if you're watching, follow Sanya. There's awesome videos with a lot of good information there.
Thank you so much, Fernando. Yeah. And I really like all the content that you are creating and the kind of motivation that you speak to an audience that's not always ready to hear. So I love how you approach it.
Thank you very much. Well, that's a wrap. We're going to just to recap. We talked a little bit about identities, limiting beliefs. Our special guest, Sanya, talked about a lot of things, but the key thing that stuck to me was these four manipulators. So if you're watching, if you catch us late, watch the replay and watch every bit of information, especially what Sanya said. Thank you for being here. If you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe and click on the notification icon. And if you found value, give us a thumbs up, comment below, and we'll respond in the replay. Thank you again. Next week, we're going live again, and we're going to talk about visualizing your outcomes. So until next week, thank you very much. Thank you, Sanya.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.